Perfect. Hi everyone. Welcome today to another fun-filled webinar by GoTrust on data mapping automation for DPDPA success. We have two esteemed guests today with us, Arvind and Himanshu. So let's start with a quick introduction of Arvind and Himanshu. Himanshu is the CEO and co-founder at GoTrust, and we have Arvind as well, who's the senior manager for data privacy at Freshworks. Now, I quickly hand over the stage to Himanshu and Arvind to do a quick round of introduction for themselves. So, Arvind, would you like to go ahead for that?
Sure. Hey all. My name is Arvind Subramaniam. I have about 12 years of experience in cybersecurity and most recently about last 6 years in data privacy. I've worked in different companies different segments or different industries. Worked in professional services, automotive, fintech. Now most recently in more SaaS space. So looking forward to this great session and hopefully you learn something out of this session.
Thank you, Arvind. Hello, everybody. This is Himanshu once again live with another topic. Hope we can discuss some important aspects of data mapping today, and we can add certain relevant information which help you in your job and in your business. Small background about me. So I'm live and working from Amsterdam. We have learned a lot on GoTrust. GoTrust has learned a lot on the GDPR, and then now we are trying to implement the learnings, the implementation, the challenges which companies will face due to DPDPA, and we are trying to make it very easy and adoptable for the Indian market. So thank you, everyone. Looking forward for the interesting discussion with Arvind and Yogesh.
Great. Thanks, Arvind. Thanks, Himanshu, for a quick introduction. And I think what we want to start with is the key challenges that the industry is facing regarding data mapping right now. The basic core idea of data mapping has to be discussed. I think. Arvind, with your experience, how do you perceive data mapping, and how you guys are actually catering to that in currently your organization, Freshworks?
Yeah. So data mapping is quite. I'll just come about first talking about why data mapping is important, right?
Right.
It is. I understand that GDPR says that you need to have a ROPA, which is in other terms a data mapping or data inventory. It can be called in multiple terms. ROPA, in other words, ROPA is called as records of processing activity as per GDPR. But the more important aspect, other than the compliance requirement, is you need to understand what data you own or what data you have in your organization for two reasons. One, to understand what controls to put in place. Second, to understand how data is flowing and talking to two different systems. Because that is basically a data lineage, what you call here, right? So you need to understand how data is flowing from one particular system to another system, how it's talking to different systems, how it is probably interacting with the outside world, outside your organization, because you have a lot of data which ends up going to vendors, third parties, partners, and indirectly with tools, you typically understand how compliances are met. Like example could be things like if data is going outside a particular geolocation, you get to know from through your data mapping, and you end up getting to know that do you need to have additional agreements in place or contractual obligations are there, or you need to have technical controls in place. At Freshworks, we've been doing manually for a while, but we've been having a tool internally, a DSPM tool which does cataloging and inventory for us. We at this moment don't have a lineage base, but we have other multiple tools which complement our inventory to give us a good overview at this point.
Okay. That's quite a nice approach. I think a lot of industry is approaching data mapping that ways. Like the DSPM tools have enabled a lot of organizations in engaging in their cataloging activities and creating lineage activities. But the core goal of that tool is I think is to protect these endpoints, right? And these are the additional perks that they are offering.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so it's obviously putting in controls, right? Putting in technical controls is important. I mean, you need to understand what data you own or you hold. You may be a controller, or you may be a processor, or you may be a sub-processor. But you have obligations based on different roles you play, and different obligations require you to have additional specific security mechanisms. But over and
Definitely.
above that, security mechanisms is something has been there. I mean, owning data or cataloging data, security mechanisms putting in place has been done by security teams or cyber security teams for many, many years, right? I would take a step back or a step forward rather, from the cybersecurity approach to more a privacy approach, where how data mapping can help an organization from cross-border transfers to helping responding to DSARs, I mean, data subject access requests, which we will get into a little more details. But these are something very specific to privacy operations, is where I, as a privacy individual, or most of the folks who are part of this call as privacy individuals, will want to look into. DSP, there are DSPM solutions out there, data security posture management solutions, which will help you to a large extent identify data and put in security controls, but our use case is a little further than that.
Okay, got it, got it. Thanks for that insight, and thank you to help our broader audience understand what the key aspect of data mapping is in terms of the security and the privacy aspect. Himanshu, would you like to add anything to this conversation here?
No, I totally agree with what Arvind mentioned on this part. Just add on to that is how we are taking the challenges, because the privacy laws are becoming complex. And if you are working in multi-geography environment, then DSPM tools have a restriction towards data classification and cataloging only. So what happens is there is a complex workflows and complex processes which needs to be catered on top of those catalogs, data catalogs. So what we have done is we have our own data mapping solution, wherein we do all the aspects of it, and then our tool we call it open platform, because it integrates with any other tool which has data catalogs, can be discovery, and can so on and so forth, like consent and all. We all have all the combinations possible within the GoTrust. We have all the components, our own homegrown solution, and we are also open to connect with other parties. So how we are approaching the market is giving freedom to the customers, that they can pick and choose from the, like in your case, Arvind, it is possible to have your own DSPM categorization, and then use GoTrust workflow management to make sure your data mapping is catered throughout the globe, basically, right? So then you can implement multiple different jurisdiction laws for frameworks basically across the globe, and then you can manage same data from different viewpoint, basically. So like certain aspect can be relevant in Indian context or certain business context, but for the same might not be that PII or SPII in different business context. So those things are next level complexity adding up. So from security point of view, I totally agree with you. You mentioned that security was how security is taking care of the data privacy, or let's say cybersecurity on the security side. Then once different laws of privacy are coming across the globe, they are basically making it more complex on the management side of it. But that's how I'm looking into it, and let's discuss more about it while we go further in the discussion. Yogesh, back to you.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Thanks, Himanshu, for the keen insights on how the differentiation between the two sectors are happening right now in the industry. On top of this, I think when we talk about complexities, so let's take the conversation there, and let's try and understand what are the key challenges that are there in data mapping right now. So I think, Arvind, you have been into this space for over a decade now, and you must have faced a couple of challenges across while doing the data mapping activities with tools or manually, probably, right? So any particular insights on that from your end?
Yeah, yeah, manually it is very time consuming, as you rightly first point. It is very, very time consuming. For the simple reason is, if your organization is anything more than probably 200 to 300 employees, you have multiple teams and multiple folks to talk to. And when you have multiple teams and multiple folks to talk to, uh, it just becomes very complicated. And these are done over meetings, these are done over Excels or Google Sheets, or however you want to do it, where you have a collaboration. but um, multiple teams need to come into place. We also typically manual exercises typically have say that you have a revision every 6 months or every 3 months based on how you want to do in your organization. But it is not an easy exercise. It is. It is to some extent error prone because a lot of things are gathered manually. How you typically do as part of manually is you can typically go to your RDS, you can go through S3, understand what data is coming in, and then evaluate them and do it. Or you can do it through queries. You can have it through questionnaires. You can have interviews with your respective product and engineering folks to understand that. But again,
Right.
um, the efficiency of a data mapping exercise is as good as what information you ask and what you get. And having a tool in place is much more efficient from that point of view because a tool is not reliant on a human, right? I mean, obviously somebody's developing a code in the backend, but once you set up appropriate integrations in place in your infrastructure, it runs. I mean, you have no time problem, you have no bandwidth issues. I mean, and bandwidth can be an issue, but yeah, keeping aside, you have no bandwidth issues. But yeah, I mean, it runs and you get appropriate information. Uh, yeah, compliance, scalability. This is something I truly agree with it because some of the organizations are in a journey who they are right now, probably say 100 to say 200 to 300 employees, if somewhat for 500 to 1,000 employees, they are growing. And when you're growing, you add more infrastructure in place. I mean, your IT infrastructure grows, your cloud infrastructure grows. Uh, your data sets, what you're gathering might be in different location and different places. So manually scaling it up when your product, as if you're a product company or a service company, manually scaling up as your organization grows can become very, very challenging. Um, yeah, I mean, resource intensive. Yeah, if you have a small team, it can become a very challenging aspect. This is something that anyways, I mean, this is something that I've been reading a lot of late, that many companies are looking to automate a lot more. Manually is getting very challenging, especially in the day where we are in a stage where AI has pretty much taken over our lives in the last 1.5 years. Automating things and putting in controls put in place, I mean, putting in technology in place to automate and giving that opportunity to privacy individuals to just address risk and do actual good work than doing these manual, intensive, mundane work, which I feel a lot because you get into a same cycle and same loop, which doesn't give you much learning. So it's much better to involve the privacy folks to just actually assess risk, actually do actual compliance work than just doing data gathering and putting in an Excel sheet and spending days and months together. This is something I'm truly a big believer of.
I agree
No.
on that part, Arvind. So when I was doing it, when I was on the buying side, basically, so, that was also one of the biggest reason to start GoTrust, basically. So, sitting on the other side, the challenges were like not only time consuming, but also it is very boring activity to follow up with 20 different teams from vendor management, from IT, from legal, from all different teams, contract management team. So just are just doing one thing, follow up, and then escalations. That's it. So therefore, I started with this tool because this tool has this capability where it sends automatically. It has stakeholders, and then it also has collaborators on every ROPA you can configure, and you can also offer certain section of ROPA to be answered by certain specific team or person. That helps to basically understand. Okay, vendor has to be with vendor team. Certain technology questions can be with technology team, contract with the contract management team, and then you get all the answers, and you can track all the progress of each and every one of it on one place. So you don't have to go in 20 different places. System already does the follow up, so it's already sends the reminder emails, so people are reminded. So that's why it brings in more productivity. That's what I believe, and that's what I've seen so far. So yeah, and reduce stuff like you mentioned, less error prone. All the artifacts are collected at one place. So that also is good for audit. When audit happens, you have audit view, and then you can give all the information at one place. So those things are pretty useful, basically. Yeah,
Uh,
Yogesh, yeah,
Quite
you want to add
interesting.
anything?
I think. Sorry, Arvind. Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
No. I mean, no. I guess Himanshu was saying something, but you can go ahead.
No, I thought you were saying something. No worries. So I think anyone from our audience that is in a company that is scaling at a very rapid rate can take take Arvind's feedback on that front very like as a very strong tip, because obviously Freshworks has scaled over the past 6 years to a very rapid rate, and he must have faced these issues on like annual basis. So moving forward, let's just understand how important data mapping is to the current compliance that we are coming with. Like we are looking at DPDPA, like it can be any movement that we have that in the market right now, and it will be applied to all the companies across the Indian plethora. So I think Arvind, you guys are doing compliance globally. You are a US registered company, so like how are you guys perceiving data mapping as an important element for DPDPA right now?
Uh, so I wouldn't want to get a little bit too much into how we're doing it, because we take GDPR as a base, because GDPR
Definitely.
typically covers most of the other regulations requirements, let me put it this way. But then we rationalize controls, and we try to look at objectively what controls are outliers from different regulations and try to implement accordingly. But having said that, so I mean, having a data inventory or data mapping, I mean, tool, right, or data discovery tool, how do you want to classify it? It's very important from an automating perspective. Over the years, I was a strong advocate of having it manually to some extent some years back, but I have done this. I've figured out this is very complicated to, at least in a big organization, to do it manually. It's much better to do it to automate it. For the simple reason is one point which I clearly see in your slide, right? Ensuring data minimization. Especially if you're a data controller and if you're specifically picking up personal data from specific different parts in your product. And you need to understand the use cases, right? You use the data inventory or a data discovery piece, then go back to your teams, go back to your product engineering, talk to them, and try to understand the use case for each data, and try to minimize how much data you are actually collecting and processing. So, from a data minimization perspective, I totally agree. It really helps a lot. As I said, strengthening third-party management is something I spoke about sometime, that having having a data lineage piece as part of a product really helps, because you understand what data is going outside your organization. And appropriately you can have contractual obligations in place. You can put in other technical controls in place so that certain specific data doesn't get out. This is really helpful for a lot of fintech companies in India, because very regulated spaces, or I mean any regulated space like fintech, insurance, healthcare in India can really use this feature a lot better, the data lineage piece, because you have third parties or partners where data goes out on a day-to-day basis, and that is the ecosystem. As part of the ecosystem, you need to understand where data is going if you are especially a data controller. So that'll really be helpful from having a tool. These are really helpful. I mean, if you can connect it back with your CRM or any other tools in place where you typically reside your data. If you're a SaaS company like me, and if you're then selling your product, then you connect your CRM. If you are a product company or a B2C or a D2C company, then you typically try to basically have your database synced up or your S3 synced up, and then you understand what data. What particular individual's data is where, and then you can easily respond to the queries or the data, the subject rights request which comes in your way, having a tool. Because a DSAR can become very complicated if it is done manually. At Freshworks, we don't have we are not gone for a tool per se, but we have developed internally tools which calls and queries our CRM to help us respond to it. But having a tool really helps.
That's great insight, Himanshu. I think, like from Arvind's perspective, the key elements that he feels will be strengthening the third-party management of the DSR. What about you? Like from GoTrust perspective, like and from all the key people that you're talking in the market to about the DPDP? Any insights from there?
No, I agree. What Arvind mentioned. See, DSRs are really complex, no doubt, and they're not only complex because they're complex because the nature of DSR is very complex. Depends upon how many geography you are operating, number of laws which are applicable on you. So it creates a lot of challenges. Same thing is how will you strengthen third-party management? So our consent management is also similarly very strong and pretty complex in that sense. Is once you have a consent, so you have already passed on the data of the end consumer to multiple third parties. Once the consent is withdrawn, how will you make sure that all the consents which you as a company has passed on to your own third parties, how will you make sure they have also remove the data or revoke the data from there? So this is another level of complexity which we also cater. So basically, if you have third party APIs, will trigger the deletion, or at least we create a list of open actions which needs to be catered to or via third party, depending upon how the integrations are. Same we have done in DSRs, that you can, our DSR and our consents are also working in a way that one to many and many to one kind of relationship. So multiple ways DSRs can be raised, multiple ways consents can be raised. Can be web, can be form, can be portal, can be mobile SDK. We have configured all of it. Then once we have a consent in our ecosystem, then the company is consuming it. Basically, that means for customer onboarding, they're passing the data, for example, to third parties to get your CIBIL score or to get your different other scores. And once they have it, then you have a preference center to basically revoke your consent. And then once you revoke it, we generate a request towards the third party. Okay, watch out for Mr. Himanshu or Mr. Arvind. The data was passed on to these three third parties. So please, either you have a API, so you can already configure the task and automate using our tool, or if you don't have it, then our system will generate a report for you. So that's how the complex consents are, basically, how you manage the consents with third party. Same applies with DSRs, same kind of logic. So DSR goes one level further because you have to delete the data within your own organization and the third party, right? So even the complexity is how first find out all the data which you have within the organization and which places you have it. So you know the discovery for it, and then you run a deletion basically on top of it. And then question comes whether you're doing a soft delete or a hard delete. Then also retention comes into play, whether it is whatever retention is applied based on the laws. Not only the law from privacy applies, then the law from the industry applies. If you're a financial, then RBI guidelines will apply, and so on and so forth. So that's why the data mapping becomes so important, that you need to make sure that you have very cleansed data set, you have minimal data set, and then the life is easy, because then you know precisely where the data is, how much data you have, and you only have a supporting data which you need to consume. So you should not create data duplicacy or certain other data silos within the organization, which will create a lot of challenges for you. But yeah, I think we went a little bit far from the data mapping topic, but whole point is data mapping becomes so important that it's connected to every other aspect of any privacy framework which we talk about. Can be GDPR, can be CCPA, can be DPDPA, can be uh, from Saudi or from different states, everywhere.
I just want to add one more thing to Himanshu, right? And one more thing which is not mentioned here. I mean, typically your data mapping also helps in incident management. Not too many people talk about it, but when you have an incident, you really don't know sometimes where your data is sitting. You also don't know where data is passed on, because you want to know that if the data is passed on to an ex third party or a partner, or if there is a breach happened there, or is a breach happened here, where exactly is the breach happened. Sometimes your data mapping can really help you there. That's another reason why I'm such a big advocacy of having a tool in place these days than doing it manually, because in a situation like an incident, it becomes very difficult to go and figure out manually, opening an Excel, and your response itself takes you hours together if you start looking at an Excel and looking at a tool which you can do in a matter of minutes.
I think now the conversation is flowing, guys. we are sharing the real pain points that we have seen, and what are the key outcomes of the whole process. across different. So to value the time, I just have to quickly move to the next point or the next conversation, which is now we have spoken about how data mapping is important, what are the key aspects of it, and how it is applied into different parts of the organization in terms of incident management, DSRs, or consents. So I think the next part will be to actually speak about how automating that helps an organization. We have spoken a lot about it, so we won't spend much time on it. But any key pointers that Arvind want to add to it will be I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, from a DSAR, I would really push, especially automation, right? Because if from a request point of view, especially big companies where they have hundreds of requests coming in on a monthly basis, having a tool in place connected to your backend from the front end, have a web portal where you have a form, get your appropriate details, which is covered, which is connected back to your tool, because your tool is already discovering data, telling you where data is and stuff like that. Once the request comes in, then you have to just click a delete or come with an access, and appropriately the report comes in, or unsubscribe or whatever. I mean DND. Then based on that, a response to an individual where uh, like GDPR says 30 days, other regulations, some regulations says 45 days. You can do it in a matter of minutes. I mean,
Correct.
you don't have to bother about it. I mean, it can be done in a matter of 2 minutes to 5 minutes, which is really helpful, right? Because some teams, I mean, I know some teams, especially in privacy operations for DSAs, because not automating that piece take days and days for one request. Um, I just extremely mundane, no learning, no experience for these privacy folks. I really feel bad for them sometimes because they're just going around knocking different teams, different databases they're opening, different S3 buckets they're opening, checking which third party has data, and then responding back. Yeah, it's just a very manual, tedious process and doesn't add any value to anybody. So automating that piece is like I'm a big advocacy of it by having an inventory which allows you to then build a DSAR around it or use a existing DSAR feature on the tools is absolute gold dust these days.
Definitely. I think in one topic you covered the five of the pros of choosing automation, because that increases the efficiency in the organization, improves compliance and security, enhance the customer experience at the end of the day, because obviously the DSRs are towards customers, and cost saving happens rapidly, because obviously DSR. What I have heard from multiple organizations, I was speaking to people from UK and from US, that it takes up to $200 to service a DSR request, and that's how expensive one request can be. And obviously, when we have proper data mapping at our backend, we know where the data is lying. That reduces a lot of errors in the system. So you covered all the part from one use case, so that's great. I think Himanshu, nothing much is left for you here, but still, if you want to
No,
add
no, but
something.
this is perfect answer. No, it's perfect answer because that's perfect because that's how why the importance is. There's no doubt for it. I think one more thing, which is the cost saving part. Why? Because a lot of times it looks like the licensing is very expensive, but if you add up all the cost of human labor involved plus the cost of penalties and fines which you might expose and you end up paying to lawyers, uh, it's way more cheaper compared to that cost. So yeah, we can move on. I think looking at the time also,
Yeah, I
we have
just to
almost
add on to Himanshu, right? I add on to Himanshu. I just said in the previous slide as well. I would rather invest on a tool for my team than running around for hours together to just respond to a DSAR request. It's not adding anything to their life or in their career. They will probably do a couple of requests, they understand how to be done. Two is just mundane work. It's just mundane physical work. They can't go back home and say that, they can't even have that kind of happiness going back and say that, hey, I've done some good work today. They were just gathering data from one place and then giving to another place. It's absolutely no use. So having a tool just really helps.
yep.
Definitely. I
No,
think
perfect. Yeah.
Himanshu, you were saying something.
No, I think perfect. Totally agreed to Arvind.
Great. I think that was quite insightful, Arvind. I'm really happy for the employees working under you as well, parallelly. So now moving ahead, I think let's take the conversation towards how one of the tools in the market, GoTrust, is solving that problem, and Himanshu is here to help the audience understand that how that is working. So Himanshu, the floor is open to you. Can you help us understand how all these things that we discussed is being solved by your tool?
Oh, thank you. I think we already have discussed a lot about it, but again, I will repeat it myself that what we have done is we created all these components, and they all are like I started. We have created an open platform. That was the whole idea that any module can plug in with any other tool in the market. So our consent, our data mapping, our DSR, our consent management or cookie management modules or assessment management modules basically, they all are pretty much available open to be integrated. We have APIs with which data can be pushed through the system or can be pulled out of the system. Not only that, the level of integration where we have gone, especially for integrations, we have more than 200 odd integrations. We have created a lot of integrations for workflow automation basically, so for DSRs, for your consent. So all those workflows can be also done automatically. For that also we have around 100 integrations with third parties, including you name it. I think we might be having it in our system. Well, that's the most likely the chances. And all these building blocks are connected, are let's say orchestrated in a way that we have a P0, P1 and P2. That's how we sell our proposition. P0 is complete workflow automation. Then P1 is workflow automation plus integrations to CRM, like Arvind was mentioning, to your own ecosystem or some third-party systems. And P3 and P2 is full automation, basically. That means data discovery is integrated, and from finding the data to deletion of the data, everything is basically taken care on the tool. So you can reach to that level. And why we have this approach? That's because we have learned in the global markets that not every company is ready for P2 full automation. They all want to have a certain level of manual intervention. So based on the company profile, you can opt for it. Whether you want to go for a P0, if you're a small company, 10% company, you can still have P0 and have manual workflow process implemented, and we can basically support it to execute that flow. It can be done very easily. You don't have to invest in heavy licensing. If you're a big company but still find it risky to do everything automated, you go with the P1 level basically. Then you have complete automation executed, but deletion and other specific tasks will be manual basically, or will be asked by third party to do it. So there is a manual intervention in that process. And if you are really advanced, like here, your company and a few more other companies basically who are really leading the market on the data privacy side, they have the capabilities, they have done it, they have means. So they go for P2 level basically, where even a DSR request coming in for data access or data erasure, the request is completed end to end basically with the automation. So with, like you said, 2 minutes, everything is done basically. So those are the levels how we basically execute and do our uh, offer a solution to the end customers basically. Yeah. Thank you, Yogesh. I think I covered that part also.
Definitely, Himanshu. And I think that's a good point where we have reached in terms of our conversation. People might have got a lot of insights on the whole idea that how data mapping automation can impact the organization from end to end, from say incident management to their DSR to consent collection, how all these things are connected, and how GoTrust is involved in solving that major use case for the industry right now. Thanks, Arvind. Thanks for coming and spending good 45 minutes of your time with us today, and enriching the audience to learn a bit more about privacy and security and what is the common space between them. Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you for your time. And I think I can
Thank
go
you.
home and I can say I have done some good work today by conducting
Bye
this.
bye. Thanks. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Arvind. Thank you for the time. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Arvind. Thank you.